Welcome into Rover Sports. It is Wednesday night, and I wanted to address a topic tonight that a lot of people actually disagree with me about, which is pretty surprising, and that is Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh is a very polarizing name, and a lot of people are jealous of Jim Harbaugh. They're jealous of his NFL success. They get upset when Jim Harbaugh happens to take Michigan and his kids, across the country to see the Pope. They envy his work ethic, the way that he sleeps over kids' houses, the way that he recruits at an extremely high level, and they think that he's putting on an act with the way that he's wired, when really Jim Harbaugh is just an alpha dog and an alpha competitor. Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, I understand, has a humongous contract. I know that Jim Harbaugh has a ton of money, and I know that Michigan is giving him a ton. Now, everybody's going to point to the Ohio State and say, Michigan's an 8-4 team. Jim Harbaugh is the most overrated coach in college football, and Jim Harbaugh has third place locked up in the Big Ten East every year going 8-4. And to be honest, that answer is true. But let's look at his quarterbacks, which, again, unfortunately, lies with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has had Brandon Peters, who absolutely sucks. He has John O'Corn and Wilton Spate. They were both trash. Wilton Spate, I think, was a transfer maybe. John O'Corn from Houston. None of them can throw the ball, and none of them can make plays outside of the pocket, and nobody could put pressure on a defense. Before then, he had Jake Rudock from Iowa. If the kid can't even start at Iowa, then why would Michigan like him as their starting quarterback? He didn't develop Shane Morris very well. So when you look back on those quarterbacks, college football, like the NFL, you got to have a really solid quarterback if you want to be in games. Now, Michigan had a really young defense last year. The game against Penn State was really ugly. The game against Wisconsin simply outclassed them with seniors. Ohio State was a game where their defense played well, but again, they didn't have the necessary quarterback and offense. This year, Shea Patterson is there. If Hugh Freeze never slept with any hookers, Jim Harbaugh would maybe still be considered an overrated coach and things would not change. But when you have a dynamic quarterback like Shea Patterson, things will change, and things will change in a hurry. Look at what happened after Baylor. After all of the rape cases, Jarrett Stidham decided to go to the Plains of Auburn. Everybody was questioning Gus Malzahn. Can Gus Malzahn coach in the SEC? Was the 1 year when he made it to the national championship a mirage, when he had Nick Marshall and when he had the prayer at Jordan-Hare where two Georgia defensive backs collided for the touchdown? They also benefited from having Trey Mason, and they benefited, of course, from one of the greatest college football games ever, the kick six. But Gus Malzahn was in the same boat as Jim Harbaugh. He had shitty quarterbacks. Sean White should have never been recruited there out of Fort Lauderdale. Jeremy Johnson's the biggest snake oil salesman in the history of college football. And Auburn never had their quarterback. So what ended up happening was Auburn was very mediocre, and they wouldn't win any of these games, and their offense sucked because they had nobody to throw the ball deep, and their running game couldn't get going. You insert now Jarrett Stidham, who actually has a very good arm, who's actually a 4-star recruit, who's actually a really talented kid that's going to get drafted in the first 2 rounds last year. And what do you know? They beat the champions. They beat Georgia at home and Alabama at home. And they win the SEC West, and they play Georgia, and they're exhausted because for some stupid reason, at the time, the Auburn athletic director made a point to play Georgia and Alabama away and home in the same damn years. And it's bullshit because for 3 straight weeks, Georgia gets to go play Georgia Tech that runs some wishbone little schoolyard bullshit offense. And Auburn has to go play Alabama every year. Alabama could play Mississippi State and then go into Auburn in the SEC title game. So, I mean, the former athletic director there, I think it's Jay Jacobs, he just did, I don't get why you had to go and do that. You know, it's brutal. And then this year they get Auburn and they get Alabama and UGA on the road and play Washington. So there you go, Auburn. Great job scheduling again from your former AD, not Alan Green or Kevin Green. Point of what I'm saying about Jim Harbaugh is Jim Harbaugh will be the fucking shit this year, okay? Because Shea Patterson's there. He'll change everything. They almost beat Ohio State. They had a 4th and 1, and they almost stuffed the kid in Columbus. Nobody seems to remember that shit, all right? So you need a quarterback to execute in college football. Period. End of story. Shea Patterson's that guy. Michigan will probably end up winning the Big Ten East this year. Penn State's going to take a huge drop-off. Joe Moorhead is gone. Trace McSorley's good, but Joe Moorhead, it was pretty much, he was the straw that stirred that drink there in Happy Valley. Then, let's look at the other teams. Ohio State, Urban Meyer's getting a little bit old, so Jim Harbaugh will take that shit over. And Wisconsin's okay. Michigan State is going to be decent this year with D'Antonio or Mark D'Antoni. But Michigan has a better quarterback. Michigan will be experienced. They'll go to Notre Dame and win. And Shea Patterson will be a Heisman Trophy contender. Period. End of story. All you Jim Harbaugh takers, take away until the season starts. Keep throwing out the overrated shit. And then when he wins, you'll be quiet as a dead mouse. You'll be damn quiet. You will be dead silent and quiet when Harbaugh wins the Big Ten East and Michigan's in the college football playoff. It's Scott Frost. It's Jim Harbaugh. That's the future of the Big Ten. Stop whining about Jim Harbaugh. Give him some time, okay? And you Michigan fans that hate on Harbaugh, what do you want, Brady Hoke coming back? You want Rich Rod? Please enjoy Jim Harbaugh and stop bitching.